show, as we like to say.
Not mean, but safe.
Yeah. And I do have the Rob Inman script here sent to me by his people. It's PR department. All right, looks like the light is going green. All right, the light is going green. All right, everybody, CoCoTALK, episode 76. We'll be doing it live in 3, 2... This is CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer. Streaming live on YouTube and Roku, available as a podcast and enjoyed the world over. And now, here's your host. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to CoCoTALK, episode 76. The train's about to leave the station. The wreck will follow shortly thereafter if I can find the right button for my train wreck. I think I'm on the wrong soundboard. That's my problem. I have the completely wrong soundboard going on here, but that's okay. We'll deal with it. I don't have train wreck. No, actually, you know what? I'm going to need to switch soundboards because we need like our toilets. We need our train wrecks. We need all that kind of stuff. So I will switch that over.
If James was here, we could just wait for his train, but...
Yeah, right. So we are live. We've got 7 people in the live chat already. So Davey Mitchell was one of the first people here. Then Tim Franklin was here. Paul Fiscarelli's here. Chad Edward Cunnington is here. That's Nick's neighbor. Anybody in Australia is Nick's neighbor, by the way, just in case you didn't know that. Mark Overholzer, Curtis Boyle, Chad's here. Eddie Serbinsky's here. Steve Bjork, Davey Mitchell, Al Hartman. It's the entire frickin' world is in the live chat. And with us on the panel, the guy who made Audio Spectrum Analyzer is with us. Mr. Steve Bjork is in the house.
Hey everybody.
Steve.
Hopefully you're doing good.
We are all doing... Well, we're not doing as good as Grant Leedy. And none of us have David Ladd money.
We can't all be as sexy as Grant, so...
Too sexy for your Coco. What's that look for, Jason?
Too sexy for his hair. Whoops.
And... we have with us the Apple guy himself, Mr. Mark D. Overholzer is in the house. Hello, Mark. And that's a lovely shirt you got there. I like it. I like it a lot.
Even matches the background decor.
Yeah, look at that. And Grant's wearing his CoCoTALK shirt. Bruce Moore with his Forest of Doom. From Canada, we have L. Curtis Boyle. Hello, and welcome back, Curtis.
Hello, man. There's my Coco Fest shirt.
His Coco Pride. There we go, Coco Fest 2018. We have from whereabouts unknown, as seen at CorgsCon, at Hamvention, at CoCoFest 2018, maker of the Switcheroo. We've got Jason Reichert in the house.
Hello.
Jason. Hello. We have with us he just kind of came, he left. We also have with us, as recently seen, rubbing elbows with the 8-bit guy, Brian Weisler is with us in the house.
Hello, everybody.
Today. Hey, Brian, thanks for being here. We have the host with the most, Mr. Bringing Sexy Back, Mr. Sexy Never Left. Grant Leedy is in the house. Hello, Grant. Another Canadian from Canada. We got D. Bruce Moore. Welcome, hello, Bruce. Hello. Creator of Forest of Doom and Coco Forever and other projects to be yet revealed. We've got the Timber Man himself, Ron Delvaux, is with us. Hey, Ron. We have creator of Boomerang Mania, Mr. Richard Lorbieski of Boyson Technologies joins us. Hello, Richard. We got from Jersey, what exit? Al Hartman is here with us.
117.
117. The Thunder from Down Under, from Australia.
Good day, everyone.
Nick Marantes. Good day, good day.
Good day, mate.
Good day, mate. And we have a special guest, and we really need to save the best for last here. But last, but certainly not least, a man who needs every introduction because nobody knows who he is. He's been stuck in the middle of Thexter since 1987, destroyer of motherboards and creator of Boomerang Mania is real. It is Beaker himself. Of course, now my soundboard's not working. Hold on 1 second here. This is a professional shit show here, I can tell you that much. All right. So, Beaker himself, Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the program for the very first time, Mr. Rob Inman.
Ta-da!
Hello.
everybody.
Hey, Rob.
I picked Beaker because I destroy things, but I mean well.
There you go. There you go. Hey, can you do your best? Thank you. You're too
Thank you.
kind.
You're too kind.
Rob Inman's here. Chad Edward is here. Chad's the guy who brought our show down due to his copyright requests. Yeah, so Retro Innovation is here, creator of the warranty returns. It's voice on technology. Yes, so welcome to the program, Rob Inman. You've been in the live chat quite a bit. You've joined us on Discord recently. You created actually, why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead before we get to know Chad? Which, by the way, are you single? Because we can make this a whole dating clip for a site, a dating site if you need to. So this is called Get to Know Rob Inman. But before we do that, you're going to answer that question?
I was going to say I could use this for my Tinder profile. Sure.
There you go for your Tinder.
That'll get you some action.
There you go. All right, so creator of Boomerang Mania. Boomerang Mania is real. If you have not seen this video, we're going to play it for you right now. Here we go, boys and girls. Woohoo!
I do have another.
That is
I
epic.
do have another concept for a video, but I don't want to give anything away.
Okay.
I do have one question for you on that commercial.
Well,
How did
that's-
you get Bernie Sanders to volunteer to lift weights?
I spent a lot of time
That's
for that commercial.
that's the guy from Jackass, isn't it? That's and he did his grandfather character that he does, right? It's not Steve O. It's the other guy. It's Christ. Can't think of his name right now.
I think that guy was. I don't know if it's from Jackass or not, but I think that guy was an actual bodybuilder that they dressed up as a old man.
Yeah,
And he went down
Okay.
to Muscle Beach and did that, but he's actually lifting a real weight, I think.
Right.
Maybe it is from Jackass, but I just found it online. And I thought, well, it's like the Coco's an old man and it's lifting. You can lift weights with your boomerang.
There you go. It's not only does it add memory, but it also speeds things up apparently too. So it's an accelerator.
Once the Gimme X comes out, it will be an accelerator because we won't have that.
Yeah, and a 609.
excellent.
That's part of it too. So
I like your CoCoTALK graphic back there.
Thank you. It keeps going off. I'm Apple TVing to that screen. Thank you.
Excellent. So since nobody knows who you are, and we're all dying to know, why don't you tell us your short life story and from then until now?
Yeah, so I really am stuck in Dexter. I have been since 1987. I can't find my way out to even get to the ending, of which there is no ending, as we know. It just goes back to loops back to the beginning. Had a childhood was TRS-80 Model 3s and 4s. Took my first computer class using those computers. Had a 16K Tandy Color Computer 2. Later 64K, and then once I got a Coco 3 with a CM8, I never looked back. And by never looked back, I mean I never saw artifact colors again until the Boomerang came along, of which you can have a CM8 or any other monitor and see artifact colors with the flip of a.
Yeah, the switcheroo. The switcheroo.
So, and I'll actually write a welcome into the Discord, but definitely got me interested in technology. Never was able to really program. Starting to learn that now, but I ended up working in .coms, and now I work with Oracle and IBM and doing just kind of business development stuff. But it's pretty cool, and I get to take technical pre-sales tests and be nerdy and pretend like I know things and stand in front of people and talk about stuff. And it's pretty cool.
Excellent. Well, we've all enjoyed that Boomerang Mania video that you made for us. It's gotten a lot of great mileage. Great video that is on par with the product it represents. And Richard, you still here with us?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, still here.
So why don't you share with us right now, since we have the creator of that video? How did you feel about that video the first time you saw it?
I thought it was awesome. It's still awesome. I don't get tired of watching it every time I see it.
And his royalty checks in the mail, right?
That's right. No, right now I got one of his boards. It was Sheila. That's going out today. I've been testing it out thoroughly, and then I got the other one, but I'll talk to you, Ron, about it later on.
Yeah.
Excellent.
problem.
And now that you are back,
Yes.
Richard, is our boomerangs back in production? Are they available? Will they be available soon?
Well, anyway, yeah. Actually, I was going to make an announcement on that. I have been working on a redesign, getting feedback from people, and wanted to add a couple of features to it. So the boards have been finished.
He's adding an accelerator.
That's it. Yep, add an accelerator, and I'm gonna put two-layer graphics in it.
What? No sound chip.
No sound chip.
Oh.
But, yeah, the boards are being shipped as we speak. Well, actually, they're sitting on the production floor. Unfortunately, it's National Day in China, so they probably won't get shipped for another week. But as soon as they come in, what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be replacing the boards that people have previously purchased. Actually, I was thinking about doing a retrofit, but it was going to be too much trouble to retrofit boards. So it's a lot easier just to ship out new boards. And so probably around October 14th, I'm going to start with the people that had purchased first and sending them out. It's going to be in and around October 14th. People are going to get new boards.
And what's the makeup of the new board?
What makes it new is I have moved some of the components where it makes it easier to fix, repair things. It was just to clean up some of the things like that, and also feedback from some of the people that had bought it. One of the biggest features I put on there is the LED. People want to mount this on the case of their CoCos or somewhere else.
Okay.
So I have added some pads to where they can actually solder wires directly onto the boomerang board, and then they can route those to wherever they want for the LED.
I have a question about the LED, Richard.
Yes.
So when I was using, I was running a bunch of different games with the Coco SCC, and occasionally they would crash for whatever reason. And then I noticed that one of the LEDs would come on, and I wasn't sure if that was because of some kind of memory error, or I wasn't sure why it was coming on.
It's probably because it's the address that it hit, and but it's not a diagnostic LED, put it that way. So it's just probably some random garbage that got in there, when it crashed, and just turned the LED on. But the LED has an indicator. You can set it up to high speed, low speed indicator, and also you can change between the three colors and the intensity.
Okay, so it has no it has no function other than what you tell it to do.
Right.
Okay.
No, that's going to be very handy for
when Stevie reaches DEFCON 1, you can increase the intensity.
Yes.
No, in a blood red color, I'm figuring.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question. Oh,
It'll be like a digital mood ring. You should have like a little thing you can put around your finger and a wire that reads to it, and depending on how you're feeling, it'll change
Right.
colors. You know. So.
one thing I'd like to see somebody do is to patch it for Dagrath so it matches your heartbeat.
Oh, that would be cool. You might get a seizure towards the end when it starts flashing really quickly.
Anyway, I have a question for Rob. There was a couple of famous authors, a father-son team with a last name that matches yours. It was Don and Kurt Inman, and they wrote it in assembly language graphics for the Color Computer and a bunch of other Color Computer books. Don, I think, had articles in Rainbow, a regular column and stuff. Are you related to them in any way?
So the short answer is no, I don't know them. I did just saw the name Don Inman because I was flipping through something, and it may have been the Rainbow that I was looking through. There are only about 100 Inman families in the U.S., and so there could be some distant relation, but I don't know. I don't know the Don Inman from Rainbow, and there's also an Inman wine company that I get asked about a lot. I don't know the Inman family wines either, but if you can hook me up,
You'll sample it gladly.
yeah, it's good wine. It is.
Too bad there's not an Inman bank too, so you can come by there for some samples. So.
Yes, any Inmans that are wealthy, if you could.
Yes.
Those Inmans. But no.
Rob, how long have you been back in the retro hobby now with real Cocos and emulators and all that kind of stuff?
So after the horror of what I did to not the recent horror that I did to a motherboard, but the original horror, which was I was moving from out from college to California, and I got rid of my color computer and all my stuff really in the garbage. I don't know how else to put it. But after that, and kind of the dark years, which I guess were the 2000s, where I kind of was all about the PC and totally modernized. I've started maybe the last 3 or 4 years looking at what's coming out with the Amiga, and I think I kind of talked about it a little bit on chat. But of course, the Amiga has a lot more capabilities and a lot more ability to upgrade it, including actual accelerators, not the pretend kind. And so I thought that was really kind of all that was out there. And then I discovered CoCoTALK, and I wasn't sure if I was really, interested. I thought I wanted to get an Amiga, used Amiga, and really kind of throw myself into that, because that was kind of always my, I guess, dream computer. I talked a little bit about the Apple IIgs with Mark O the other night on Discord. The Apple IIgs being like the Coco 3 we always wished we had.
Yeah.
Right, with the Ensoniq chip and the additional memory, etc. The Amiga was certainly by far the Coco 3 we all kind of wished we had. And so I was getting into that community when I just discovered the CoCoTALK channel, and
wow.
And basically I didn't know how interested I would be, but all the stuff with the FPGAs and the different hardware now that's enabling us to do more things with software. That's why I think the software will come. I think if you build it, it will come. And I think we're already seeing a lot of the development tools that I downloaded the Docker image from some guy who presented at, forgot his name.
Yeah, Jamie Cho at Coco.
Jamie Cho, and then there's
Jamie
Roger
Cho,
Taylor's
yeah.
Phoenix IDE, and there's all sorts of stuff, and eventually people will start developing for this hardware. And I'm seeing a lot of chatter out there on software. So anyway, it was really kind of the hardware that got me interested in it again, and then people like.
We lost you for a second. You're muted.
Shoot, hold on. Sorry about that.
There you go.
Sorry about that. I was trying to start my CoCoTALK logo back. Anyway, I'll reconnect here for a second.
Hey,
Anyway,
Carlos has
people
just
like
joined
Nick-
us.
Yeah, people like Nick Morentes who are pushing the computer to kind of new levels. I was thinking what if Popstar Pilot had came out in 1986 or 87. Every programmer would try to do that split horizontal scroll and the 1 byte technique that he was using, and so a lot of the new innovations have attracted me.
Very cool. Very cool. You touched on just about every single base. That was pretty cool.
Yep.
Well, I guess I don't know if we should say thank you or apologize because it seems like we pulled you away from the Amiga.
No.
Thanks for hanging out with us, and sorry, Amiga.
It's their loss. It's my game.
There you go. Okay, the Amiga just lost an outstanding community member. Amiga community would have had an awesome video by now.
That's right.
But
Well, there are Amiga users among our various members.
Shh, don't tell people that.
We have to take Al out behind the woodshed.
Yeah,
and Carlos is here.
I like that.
What is it you're not supposed to tell people?
Some of us have
we'll
have Apples and Amigas and Commodores. And
What's the
we
topic?
don't just have a Coco.
That would be me too. I have all kinds of different retro systems.
Yeah, for me, Stevie, I don't want to start all the way at the beginning, even though kind of the Amiga was kind of, whoa, it's so cool, it came out. My whole life has been Radio Shack and Tandy and the Color Computer. So once I discovered that there were actually people out there that are still using it and developing it, I actually tried to join the Amiga Discord, and people welcomed me, right away. But there's just hundreds and thousands, it seems, of people, and they all have weird screen names, and I immediately just got out of there and said, I think I need to stick with my people in the Coco world.
I have a hard time with screen names too. Yeah, I mean, last time I used a screen name, I was 19 years old, and it was on a bulletin board system. Ever since then, I've been kind of using some form of Steve.
Yeah, Stevie Chat and CompuServe was the last time I used one.
So it's just like, even on Discord now, we've got some screen names, and for the life of me, I have no idea who they are, but, to each their own.
Yeah, I could never afford CompuServe. I did log into some bulletin boards, but if I had some kind of Discord and something like this when I was a kid, I mean, that would have been like life-changing. So it's kind of like, for most of us, like reliving our childhood. It's like, well, what if, I didn't have to deal with floppy disk and I could just load stuff off of Coco SDC? What could I have done there? And what could I have done with all these modern tools? And look at all the people that I get to talk to that, very cool.
Excellent. Well, thanks for sharing a day in the life of Rob Inman with us. Cool stuff. We also have somebody who's not with us quite a bit, but Carlos Camacho of the Color Computer Store is here. Hello, Carlos.
Hi, Steve.
And someone who has not been on in quite some time, Barry Nelson, is back with us too. So Carlos, you want to catch us up on what you've been up to lately? I see you got all kinds of Cocos you're posting for sale and your restorations and stuff. So why don't you let the two people who don't know who you are, why don't you let them know a little bit about yourself and what you've done and what you're doing?
All right. Yeah. So Carlos is here, living in Massachusetts, originally from Connecticut, originally from Japan, and originally from Brazil. So working on always flipping a bunch of Cocos, buying those nasty, broken, smelling Cocos and refurbishing them, putting them back out there so people can enjoy them. I got a couple models out there right now, and I've got a bunch of TR-80 Model 1s that I need to work on next, and TR-80 Model, not a Coco, but like a Model 1. And a couple Model 3s as well. Yeah. I've got to work on. And then I've got about 2 or 3 dozen Japanese computers I need to fix and sell. So it's kind of a way to de-stress after my day job doing that type of work. And so a lot of the projects I work on are related to how I can refurbish or improve the look of those computers. And so you might have seen some of my posts related to the badges that I've been working on. So,
Yeah.
Right. So working with some Chinese vendors to source those, and a couple other things that I'm going to be sourcing down the road. Right now, I'm actually in the middle of, I don't know if you'd like to see what I'm doing on my screen. So are you able to?
Sure. Oh, you should be able to. Oh, actually, I probably need to stop sharing sound for you to be able to share something if you want to go ahead and try it. So Richard Lorbieski says your day job is destroying Coco.
My day job has really nothing to do with computers at all. Although, originally I studied computer science in college, but then they wouldn't let me make games. They were interested in databases. So I said, all right, goodbye computer science department. And I became a marketing person. So I'm an e-commerce manager now. I've been doing that for quite some time. So I don't destroy Cocos. I often find destroyed Cocos, and if I find that they're so destroyed, like a Color Computer 3 that I bought off a flea market, that it was just like, it was probably the worst looking board I ever came across. That was beyond my skills. So I sent that over to Richard, and hopefully he's going to make a tutorial to show us how he's going to fix all the broken pieces on that. So did you want to see what I was doing? Yeah.
Sure.
Let's see. Share. Yeah, let me share this. And if this doesn't work, I apologize. Or if some pornography pops up, I also apologize for that.
Okay,
so,
I see.
Okay,
character
excellent.
tiles.
Yeah, great. So this is a spreadsheet that Ed Snyder had created for his external 6847 character generator, and so it's a way to quickly. I mean, it's in Excel, right? It's not a true little sprite editor, but it does the job. And so what I was doing was creating a bunch of little character sprites. And so I was talking to Brandon, I want to say, who creates the Coco VGA. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could have a bunch of different sets in the Coco VGA so that people could quickly, bang out games? And literally, I made, I've got Pac-Man in here, I've got Centipede, I've got shooters, I've got RPG games in here. And he mentioned that it's quite doable. There is a limitation on how much he can put in there, it sounds like, but at minimum, it's something that I always thought would be really cool because the speed of a character-based game is quite quick, right? And but we were always limited to those blocky characters. So this is kind of interesting concept. In the dream world, we would also be able to modify the color of each of these, the actual, so it's not just black on green, right? That would be really cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let me stop my share.
Yeah. Well, based on what he revealed with us last weekend, he was on our After Dark last Saturday. He does now have a character editor.
Really?
That is already kind of basically what you're looking at there, but it's an application. And not only can you modify the text characters, which are only monochrome, but you can modify all of the blocks of semi-graphics characters too, which gives you 8 foreground colors on black. So you technically could have character sets with up to 8 foreground colors on black. And so I'm planning on taking advantage of that. So I'm hoping to get a Coco VGA set up by Tandy Assembly. And start working on that.
And so could you provide me that link to that editor?
Probably just go to CoCoVGA.com. But he did post some pictures in Discord under the Coco VGA channel where he showed some pictures of the character editor. And so I don't know if the program's ready for release yet, but he did show us some pictures of it. So it's in the works. Very cool. And he did talk about that. So that's perfect timing, and your artwork could already be
just imported in and go basically at this point.
Right. I've also started looking at a bunch of tile sets and sprites that I created a long time ago, but those are for, I want to say, the Amiga. We're back to talking about the Amiga. And so last night I was trying to do color reduction to map them over to the Coco 16 colors. The other thing to share is just got this in the mail, and it's always funny when you see a book. See that? It's Basic Micro
Microcomputer models in biology.
So this is kind of my fetish, which is buying books from this era, and usually, you get some really cool titles once in a while, like related to the 6809 or the Dragon or some other topic, right? Pascal, etc. But once in a while you come across a book like this and there's no information about it, but it sounds cool, right? So I'm thinking, ooh, this could be a good foundation to make like a Conway Game of Life type of game. So I bought it and now I'm flipping through it and I'm like, whoa, holy shit, I haven't. Can I say that? Can I say that? Are you guys on an enemy?
Okay, you already did.
All right.
So, yeah, that's fine.
I had no idea of all these chemical compounds in here. Forget about it. So yeah, that's good.
You know what that reminds me of? I tried playing the cartridge game. The Radio Shack has a cartridge game called Atom, where you've got to like make molecules and protons and neutrons, and I'm notorious for not reading the manual. I tried to read the manual, my head exploded trying to read the manual. So I'm like, screw this game, I'm not playing it. But that sounds similar to that concept too. So cool stuff. I love old books.
Carlos, did they want $600 for it?
Yeah, that's always a funny one, right? Where you have these guys who will probably start it on Amazon and they'll put like $1,000 for the book, and then some guy will see that and then they'll go to eBay and they'll charge like $600. It's ridiculous. Yeah. The other thing that you're probably aware of that I'm doing is I've got a big box here full of old color dynamic news. Right. So all the issues. And so every month I bang out one or two of these. I scan them and then I'm uploading them over to the.
Is that Dennis Kitz's magazine?
No, I don't believe so. It's someone else's magazine. And I should know this because I've been scanning this like all the time.
I remember hearing about it, but it's one I never got a chance to read.
Bill Chappelle.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got about something like 40 more issues to go. I'll get there. But you can find those on the Color Computer archive, and they're pretty informative. They're pretty good.
Yeah. I love looking at those things too. Cool stuff. Well, we've been going for like a half hour now. Maybe we'll take a brief break, but I'd also like to hear from Brian on his adventure meeting the 8-bit guy. We saw that picture of him in the studio. That'd be kind of cool. So how about we do that real quick? I'm going to take a quick moment here. We're going to recognize our sponsors. We'll take a commercial break, and then we'll come back. So you are in the middle of CoCoTALK episode 76. We do have our primary segment today is going to be wait a second. Assembly part 7? I screwed that one up. It's assembly part 8, right, Steve?
Yes, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I screwed up there on my little subtitle there. Yeah, so our main segment today is we're going to do part 8 in our series on assembly language. So, which is good. And so let's do real quick. Let's take a look at our sponsors. And one of our sponsors who we had on last Saturday night for After Dark number 15 was Brendan Donahue, and he gave us an update on the Coco VGA project, and I continue to be more and more excited about this project, and I'm planning and hoping and dreaming. All I want for Christmas this year is a working Coco VGA setup. So if you'd like to find out more about that project, visit CoCoVGA.com. Richard Lorbieski of Boyson Technologies, makers of fine hardware that is pre-assembled and ready to be returned to Retro Innovations. Visit BOYSONTech.com for Boomerang Mania, because it is real. Maker of fine quality hardware and fixer of lesser quality hardware, Retro Innovations. Our good friend Jim Brain at retro.com. He's got a peripheral for all kinds of systems. So for your TIs, your Commodores, your commodes, if you will, and your color computers. He's got a little something there. And we would be remiss if we're talking about Coco Hardware, one of the longest standing members of the community to develop new products and peripherals for the color computer. Cloud9 Technologies at cloud, the number 9tech.com. Other cool things, the SD pack. If you'd like to make a self-booting SD cartridge like a ROM pack, visit sdpack.com. If you have not already gotten your very own switcheroo, visit coco3scartcable.com or cocoman.biz, the only leading cable that lets you switch from RGB to composite with the flip of a switch. Ron, can you confirm if we're on Roku?
Yes, we are. I'm
okay, so we live
I'm
stream.
in communication with Roger right now.
Oh, it's not time we said hi. So we also live stream. Not only are we live streaming on YouTube, but we also live stream to the Coco TV channel on Roku. Thank you to Roger Taylor for making that happen. If you want to get a cool t-shirt like what Mark Overholzer's wearing, like what I'm wearing, if you want to get a cool mug, you can go to the Retro Swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you want to find out more about the color computer, go to imacoconut.com. If you'd like to find out more about CoCoTALK, the show, and how to reach out to us, go to cocotalk.live, where you can send us email feedback and tell us how bad the show sucks. If you want to see a professional podcast, you can go to the Coco Crew at thecococrew.org. 4 years in the running. The original, often imitated but never duplicated, the Coco Crew podcast. Also, our good friend Brian Joyce of Extructus Productions at fd501.com. Also, a guy who dabbles in hardware and cranks out a product or two. Ed Snyder, a.k.a. The Zipster at The Zipster Zone, ZIPPSTER zone.com. Check him out. Tell him thank you. Send them some business. Show them your love. They're supporting us. Let's support them. And we'll be back in just a minute, folks.
Hi there, this is Mark Overholzer, and you're watching CoCoTALK, the world's leading weekly talk show where you can join in. Hey, come watch us and see what's happening in the world of Coco.
We'll return after these announcements.
How does it feel? I'm still believing.
What if you could go back in time to just the right moment and ensure that Tandy won?
You definitely earned this office.
Thank you. Yes, you're too kind.
Oh, I'm much happier breaking stuff. Life has been a dream.
But what if you went back to the wrong moment?
Give me that. How do you even know what that was?
Listen, I don't really care about these blueprints. I just want...
Say, who are you? You want to spy for Commodore or something, are you?
Just move! Oh. Hey, hold the elevator! Hold the
Stop right there!
Whoa, no need for guns, no need for guns!
So, Mr. Anders, it seems you have stumbled upon my little secret. There is no point in waiting for security. I think you are about to have an accident.
Okay, no!
Coco, forever? Spring-ish 2018.
I love that, spring-ish. And we've got a new one that we'll be showing off too. That one happened to be queued up, so we got some more. Oh, look at this.
Switcheroo. Use your Coco with a modern display. Go from RGB to composite with just the flip of a switch. CoCo3scartcable.com.
CoCoTALK, c'est le coq champignon, des micros et dans le pion. Pour le jeu, il est pas bavard, les études, c'est pas bizarre. L'expansion, il a ça, les commandes, tu parles ça. Notre Coco est programmable, pour tes cours, c'est bien serviable. Coco de l'oreille, chaton, l'affaire est dans le sac.
Un ordinateur couleur qui a de la personnalité. Le Coco 2 de Radio Shack. On solde pour Noël à partir de 149,95.
Coco 2 de Radio Shack, ton affaire est dans le sac, c'est toi et Coco 2.
This is what people listen to when they talk about OS 9.
It's very upbeat.
Le Coco-Do.
And I would like to point out that the Switcheroo is the #1 selling RGB to SCART solution for the Color Computer 3 in Uruguay.
And there you go. There you go. And we actually have the grandfather of the RGB to SCART design. Barry Nelson happens to be with us. And we're only calling you grandfather because you're old, Barry. So.
Yeah, I hear you. As I've said before, sort of the necessity being the mother of invention. When my TV that had the VGA input broke, I had to do something. My new TV only had an HDMI input. I'm like, no, I've got to hook up my Coco. I can't live without my Coco. So I had to design something that would let me hook it up to the new TV. So that was the result.
Yep.
So Jason, how many of those have you sold in Uruguay?
Uruguay? I've completely saturated the Uruguayan market.
Yeah. So it must be a large number.
Let's put it this way: every Coco owner in Uruguay,
100% market saturation.
He'll be having antitrust monopoly suits against him in Uruguay.
Jason, will you be moving to a studio?
A studio?
Yeah, from all the sales, upgrade.
Yeah, so I believe that number is 1 in Uruguay. Right?
Finally getting a down payment on his Lamborghini.
There it is. And Nick Marenti's got his royalty check from the Popstar Pilot. It was a total of 11 units of Popstar Pilot were sold in the month of August. So that was pretty cool.
That's not bad,
just not at all. Considering it's a lame old crappy game.
It is, yeah. There's 11 stupid people out there.
That's the latest marketing technique now.
I mean, it's so old and primitive, it doesn't even have 2-layer graphics yet, so it's ultra custom.
Oh, you should hear how it sounds with Ed's new multi-pack for version 2, right?
Yeah. With the sound chip in it.
Excellent. Carlos, have we kind of done enough justice to having you catch us up on what you've been up to lately? Was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, not really. I think those are the things that I'd probably be able to talk about publicly. There's some other stuff going on. I'm not ready.
Okay. And your store is Color Computer Store. Is there a URL for that? A website you want to plug?
Yeah, that is a URL, Color Computer Store. It's basically a holding page right now for the site. I'll be launching the e-commerce site. I keep saying this, but things just keep piling up, as you know. Hopefully sometime in the fall or in the winter to start selling products on there. Actually, I'm working on some other sites too that are Coco related that will be really interesting, especially for gamers and programmers.
Excellent. Very cool. Very cool. So, yeah, what I would like to throw out there, because this is the challenge you face when you want to buy an old computer on eBay. You don't know the quality of it. You don't know if it's going to work. Most people say untested because they don't know that it's an RF out and not a composite out, And so they're like, well, I pressed the button and made a clicky sound, so it might work. I've probably bought 24 Cocos on eBay over the years, and maybe 2 or 3 of them had problems. So they're pretty durable. They do last, and chances are they're going to be 90% probably good. But you just never know when you buy an auction from a stranger. But if you buy it from Carlos, you know that it's been cleaned up. It's got new capacitors. Keyboard's been cleaned. A lot of times you repaint them, and you've done some really interesting paint jobs. You've done the Darth Vader Cocos. You've done the white Cocos. You've done a Coco 1.5 where you painted a Coco 2, the silver to make it look like a Coco 1. So you've done some, so you've done some interesting things with that. As a matter of fact, my only comment on that was I wish it was a matte finish versus a glossy finish. That was just my preference. But I loved how you did a clear coat on it. You had didn't you have like an auto body place paint that for you?
Yeah, for
the Mercedes Silver.
Right, my brother was a auto body mechanic. He's actually retired now, but while he was doing it, we were bringing it into his shop and actually having his professional gun spray it down, and it was amazing. The coverage looked great. But,
yeah. So you can buy with confidence if you're going to buy from the Color Computer store. You know that's going to work. You know it's been clean. You know it's going to be a presentable machine. So thanks for doing that, for providing that resource to us.
I really enjoyed seeing people get their CoCos, and almost like as close to new as you can kind of get to, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like your Japanese stuff you do too. Like when you were in Japan recently,
right? Well, I used to live in Japan. I lived there for 14 years, and so so I go there about every year to either Japan or China on business.
Cool.
So
if I had more money, I'd be buying more stuff from you.
so now that we have, I believe, a functioning reproduction of the Gimme chip in FPGA, what is everybody's thoughts on possibly somebody, probably more as a hobby or to make a reproduction of the Color Computer main board?
I'm sure Ed is working on that.
I'm looking forward to Ed's new keyboard too, with the laser etch keys.
Oh yeah, that's I've got a Coco 3 that's my backup Coco 3 that the keyboard is not in such great shape, so I'm considering maybe getting that up as a functioning machine again.
Cool. Brian, you mind sharing with us your little adventures with the 8-bit guy and what that was like, how you got that going, and what that experience was like?
Yeah. As I mentioned on the Facebook page there, I was going to be in Dallas for a while for work. And on his website, you can find his email address. And so I dropped him a line about 3 days before I was going to go there, if it was going to work. And he was very prompt to respond back, and said that you kind of worked out his schedule when he was going to be there. And showed up there that afternoon, and he welcomed me into his house. Because that's basically where he does it all at, is in his house. He has a bedroom that he's converted into that studio that you see his videos. Took me back there, and one of the things that I kind of commented about, and he says it's a very common thing, he gets about one guest a week that does stop by his house, so it's actually quite frequent that he kind of shows the place. It's smaller than you think. But of course, it's just the camera's eye view that you're looking at. So
sure.
Yeah, he showed me the studio, the lighting, the camera setup that he does, how he puts it all together. And then he took me to another room back in his house where he has his editing computer that he puts all the video together. He kind of explained the process of what he does. He actually writes his script first, and then he records the video. To fit that. So he writes his script, he does his audio recording, and then he shoots the video to fit into that. So it was very interesting. Then he did a lot of show and tell. In his studio, there's a shelf that you can't really see in the camera, where he just has all of the stuff that people have sent him. You may have seen some of his mailbag videos that he does, where people have sent him items that they'd like to see him restore. So he has that, but then back in his other studio where he does all the editing, more shelves with more retro computer stuff. And then he actually has a drop-down ladder that goes up into his attic where he literally has probably 5 or 6 shelves with even more stuff. So he has quite a collection, all spectrums of computers, the Tandy, the Commodore, Amiga stuff. And just all sorts of different flavors of accessories and everything that goes with it. He has keyboards as well. That's another part of his show that he does. It's very interesting. He's actually stopped taking donations because he has too much. But it was very
terrible problem.
Exactly. But it's very interesting. He came from the IT world as well. It wasn't until about 1.5 years ago that he went full time with this, and he really enjoys it. He loves doing the videos, and it's really a lot of work that he has to put into it. He spends anywhere from a week to 1.5 weeks just doing one little 20-minute video that you might watch of his. So it's very interesting. to see though. But yeah, he's very generous with his time and happy to explain the process to anybody that wants to stop by. So if any of you are in that area and you'd like to do the same thing, just look on his website. There's his email address there. He's pretty flexible with his time, but he says if you give him a couple days notice, he'll be happy to do it.
That's cool. That is really cool because honestly, I'm surprised. I mean, you are literally a random stranger and he let you into his house. That would concern me. I'm not even a celebrity, but just letting a random person in my house, it's like, I don't know, man. Let's
Well, so, in the picture that you saw that I posted there, he takes pictures of everybody that stops, and every once in a while he said he'll put a video together of kind of a montage of all the videos of people that have stopped by. He's had people from all over the world stop by there. So it's not just the United States or even the Dallas area there. It's from all corners, people that have come there and want to see him. So yeah, it's very interesting. So nice guy. Just like you see on the videos there, he's exactly the same way. So yeah.
Excellent.
I only have one question. What is this script thing of which you speak? What is that?
Yeah, the basically the script. What he's going to talk about.
I'm just poking fun at our show here. We don't have a script.
Okay. I get it.
No, I mean, it's like I have tried different ways to make videos, and there's the ideal way, but like as you mentioned, it's very time consuming. So there are times when I want to plan a video and record it and edit it and then upload it, but it takes time. Just so the times I've done that, I've spent sometimes an hour and a half of recording just to get 20 minutes of content that I liked, and then when you edit a video and you go to save a video, it can take a really long time. 20 minutes can take you 45 minutes to save that file back, and then you got to upload it. That takes time. It's a process. So just making videos and uploading videos, it is laborious. And so,
so that's why he writes the script first. So that way he knows what he wants to talk about, what he wants to say, what he wants to go.
Yeah.
And then
that's
and then he
great
records
idea.
the video, and he finds it very difficult sometimes because you'll go to turn the computer on. Let's say this is the first time he's turned it on, and of course it won't turn on. So now he has to go and fix that and try to make it work. And so he might spend 8 hours just to get 20 seconds sometimes, just because he wants to show that one thing. So, but
yeah.
Throwing this out there, but if anybody wants to donate stuff to me so I can put those in my basement,
I was going to ask Ron, is he worried that there's somebody competing for the garage title here with pieces of computer stuff?
But towards the end there, we were talking. I tried to swing the conversation towards the Coco because he does have a few of them sitting there. He did do one video where he did a Coco 1 where he did restore that one. And he does have a number of Cocos that he wants to put together a series. He's been working on a Commodore series that tends to be his leaning, but he definitely wants to put together a Coco series. So
he did have the Coco featured in his basic one he just did, though. So he was actually running some of the programs, Coco 2.
Yep. So he has a number of them that he wants to do restoration videos and then kind of talk a bit about the history and what it does. So yeah.
He has an original game called Planet X that he's ported to several platforms, Commodore VIC-20 and the 64, I think, and then he just did it for MS-DOS, including supporting the Tandy 1000 mode. And I'd kind of written up a thing to send to him to try to convince him to maybe experiment with the Coco 3 and porting that, but I don't know. I didn't end up sending it because I'm sure he gets a lot of requests. But and I don't know how comfortable he is with 6809, being that it's probably would be a pretty laborious process. But the specs are very, very similar to the MS-DOS version, and he could do it in the 4-color 640 mode, which I think that personally I would like to see more games take advantage of that mode. But I'd be curious to know when he maybe after when he completes the Color Computer series. Maybe I'll see if he's interested in actually doing some programming with his that game that he has, Planet X.
Yeah, you might even get him spoiled because once he goes to 6 and 9, I doubt if he'll want to go back to 6502 after that. And as far as 640 mode games, Rick Adams' new game is actually based on that mode. So there's one coming out.
Once you go at 9, you never go back.
Yeah, the issue with the 640 mode doesn't work too well on NTSC monitors. Lots of artifacting.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But I think that's getting to be less and less of a problem now because everybody's getting SCART cables and
True.
various things. So it's less of an issue than it used to be.
And it's also only 4-color.
So a lot of artifacting. Are we back to the old days then, all over again?
If you're running on NTSC, yes.
Yeah.
Which 640 mode are we talking about here?
640 graphics mode.
The 640 high-res mode.
Oh,
It was used a lot in the MS-DOS world, the CGA mode. And I guess for color computer users, I mean, we were so excited about the 16 color mode after suffering all those years with no color on the color computer, except for those blocky P modes and then the artifact colors. I think everyone got so excited that that's really all the only screen that was ever used. But for his game, which is a top-down kind of command and conquer type of strategy game, I think the 640 mode would be pretty good. But then again, he's done it on the Commodore 64 and low resolution, so it's just a thought.
Yeah, it was a trade-off between the number of colors you wanted on the screen and the resolution, I think, was the main reason. And as Steve pointed out, if you back in the NTSC days when people were running on TVs and composite, it would artifact like crazy, and it made text hard to read and stuff too. So I think that's the reason it wasn't used before. But now that people are using SCART cables and stuff where everything comes up crystal clear, I think there's a bigger opportunity for people to do the 640. We'll see how Rick Adams' game does because it's a 640 by 4 color.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, does the 8-Bit Guy, does he have a cameraman or another person that does his video, or does he just have a standalone camera he hits record?
He has a standalone camera. He it's kind of interesting. He actually has a foam head that's at the same height as he is. And he actually places that behind his, I guess you'd say like his studio position where he's going to be standing. And he actually sets that there, and then he uses that to set his camera. But he just has a small little digital camera on a tripod. And he'll start the recording, record the piece, and then he stops that, sets up the next scene, and then does that if he's going to be talking during that scene or if it's just showing. But yeah, he does it all himself.
That's cool. That's very cool. All right. Well, I think we've done a good round robin here on the panel. And just so you know, I mean, if you were to ever come to my studio, I mean, I'm going to show you what it all looks like right now. It's one freaking crappy room. It's 10 foot by 12 foot. And yeah, so the fact that he's got a garage and a second room or an attic, he's definitely got a lot more real estate. I don't even have a separate room to do my editing in. The same computer I stream from is the computer I edit on.
You just have to move in with Ron. That'll solve the problem.
Yeah, right.
And how much is the fee for the Stevie Strobridge tour?
If you book in advance, you can get a 40% discount. So, yeah.
Complimentary Vegemite.
Cool. All right. How about... Yeah, send me some Vegemite. How about we take one more break, and then Steve Bjork, are you ready to talk?
All set to go.
All right, we're going to take another break, and then we will be... Richard Orvieski says, Steve, a crappy room for a crappy person. Thank you, Richard. All right, so we'll be back in just a minute here.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Tim. Playing Daggerith like that idiot from the book. You're watching CoCoTALK.
I'm actually...
We will return after these messages.
This summer, straight
what's
to
going
YouTube.
on, everybody? It's me. It's Original Gamer Stevie Stroh. You know, gameplay.
To get your copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD today, head on over to 8bit256.com. There you will find several DVDs featuring color computer gameplay videos by the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh. So to get your very own copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD, head on over to the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com and tell them the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh sent you. Mention my name, you'll get a good seat.
Introducing a computer that can change the way you work. The new Tandy 1000, complete with DeskMate software for easy-to-use word processing, filing, worksheets,
lose a few more brain cells.
communication. Brought to you by Tandy. Clearly,
That's right.
service support
My will to
and
live
software.
just
The Tandy 1000,
goes lower
available
and
at
lower.
Radio Shack computer centers and so
Davey's
Tandy
disappointed there's no giant
service and
rabbits
support
that
are
appear.
clearly superior.
And it's been a whole hour.
There's been no what now?
There's no giant rabbit videos.
Oh, yes, we are deficient on our rabbit videos right now. And by the way, we've got 28 people watching us live right now. There's been an hour and no giant rabbits.
It's a lot of Russian
Sorry about
bots
that,
going
Dave.
on there, right?
Yes. All right, well, we're going to play some music here because this is a professional show. And then we're going to jump into assembly language, part 8 in the ongoing series, hosted by Mr. Steve Bjork himself. So cue Rock Tune by L. Curtis Boyle. Frickin' piece of crap, frickin' soundboard. What a shit show this is, huh? All right, let's try this one more time. So, look at this every single time. The only reason why I don't smash this is because it's $160. And so if it was a cheap piece of crap, I would have rage smashed it a long time ago. Let's try this again. Take it away, Steve Bjork.
Okay, today we're going to continue a little bit about how you can change the order the instructions are run. Last time we talked about branch and branch based on conditions, and if a number was greater than or less than, how we can change the order. Now we're going to talk about jumping and calling subroutines. So let's go to the next slide. All right. As I said, in lesson 7, we talked about branching. That was used to make decisions and like that. And we're going to now talk about the first non-branch. It's called jump. And this is similar like basic, where you got to go to. You're going to go off to a line number. Well, in the case of the jump, you could sit there and say jump to 8,300 ED, that's an hexadecimal, and it'll jump to that location. Unlike those branches that we talked about in last week's episode, those were basically always branching kind of around itself. In other words, jump 20 ahead, jump 30 back, stuff like that. And that made it very nice if you moved the program. It could always stay within itself. This is one of the things that's key, as Curtis knows, with OS 9. Everything's got to be relative because you never know where you're running in memory. Well, sometimes you got to refer to things that are an absolute. Like, for example, if we jump to the example that we have here of 83 ED, that would be someplace in the ROM. I just came up with a random number there, but I don't know what it does at that particular location. But even if you move the program, it is going to jump to that particular location. It's very handy to make sure that you know where you're going and what you're getting. And jump also has a lot more options in it too. And why don't we go to the next slide? As I said, the jump can be used to go to a new location. One of the things that you can do is actually have it where the jump is more like an on go to. In other words, in BASIC, an on go to, you've got a list of different addresses you're jumping to. Well, you can do the same thing in assembly language. First, what you do is you load up one of the index registers with the address of the table that contains all the different addresses. Then you load up, let's say, one of the 8-bit registers with a offset. This is how far that we go into the table. And then the jump is able to actually go out there, look at where that table is, look how much you're indexing or skipping through the table, grab the address, and jump to. But let's take a look at how that actually works in assembly by going to the next slide. Okay, up at the top here, we've got something you've never seen before. This is a data statement. The DW stands for data word. It means that we're doing 16-bit values, 2 bytes for every location, and that contains the address somewhere that we might point to in memory. So address 0, address 1, address 2 are the addresses that we've stored in our table so we can refer to it. So our first instruction in the actual code that's going to do this on GoTo is load X with where in memory is this table. That's what the #J table does, loads up the address. Then we load up the B register. Remember, that was an 8-bit register. We load that up with the jump number. We try and figure out which one of these addresses we want to use. And of course, in assembly, one thing we do, we don't start counting with 1. We start counting with 0. 0 is always the first item. 1 is the second item. And 2 is the third item, etc. So you'll have to get used to that. Instead of like basic, you do a step from 1 to 10. Assembly language likes to do a step 0 to 9. So since this table contains 16 bits of address information in each of those addresses, what we have to do is multiply what we just loaded into the B register by 2. So that we can now point to words instead of bytes, since a word is every other byte. And we, of course, use the logically shift to the left B to multiply that register by 2. So once again, you see how easy in the earlier lessons we talked about shifting, how shifting is used to do multiplication. And you're going to do a lot of that in assembly, taking things that are normally referring to bytes and you want to refer to words or you want to refer to something else. Now we're getting into the actual instruction jump, and then we have a bracket, B comma X close bracket. Well, the B comma X means take where X is pointing, add B to it as the new location. So B, if it was 0 and we multiply by 0 by 0, we still get 0. You would actually add 0 to X to figure the thing out. Now, X doesn't change in this instruction. After we're done, it will still remain the same. But we will have a reference that we're looking at the first element. Now, if we wanted to look at the second address in the table, B would have been a 1. We multiply that, it becomes a 2, and it becomes the second word of the table, and that's B comma X. So we're basically emulating the on GoTo instruction here with this type of operation. So before, with the branches that we talked about last week, we were always talking about jumping to some location, and it was always like, if the answer was 0, we're going to branch there, or if we're going to branch always there. It was always about going to some location. The jump instruction, because it allows you to use all the different 6809 addressing modes, allows you to come up with unique and interesting ways how to calculate where to jump. And that's effectively what we're doing, is we're actually doing a calculation to figure out where in the table we want to pull up the information. So this would be handy if, for example, let's say that you had a CoCo1, a CoCo2, and a CoCo3. Well, address 0 would be something for the CoCo1. Address 1 would be for something for the CoCo2, and the third one would be address for the CoCo3. So we could have jump number actually be what type of CoCo are we, and that would allow us to decide where to go to. So we can make our programs vary based on what we're looking at as far as information.
So that would be kind of an example of on Coco,
Yep.
go to,
Yep.
and then depending on the type of Coco
Exactly.
you have.
So,
and you could do stuff like tables.
Yep.
Like I say, you're moving your spaceship in Space Invaders. You could have offset address 0 go to move left, and address 1 goes to move right, or something like that too. So,
and this would get very handy with graphics, because you might have different graphic routines depending on the object that you're moving or drawing, or whether or not the object is dead center on the screen, or, somewhere within the window. And sometimes we have to use slower routines for clipping. This is where the graphic has gone beyond the edge of the screen. Because the way Coco's memory is working is, if you draw beyond the right-hand side of the screen, it's going to wrap on the left-hand side.
Yeah,
you've seen that a few times there, Steve. So this is used for making decisions in a different way. Instead of basically just taking a look at whether or not a number is zero or not, you're doing a jump based on a more elaborate calculation. So this is, as you can see, it becomes a function where this type of jump, where it uses the addressing modes, gets more elaborate. So so every type of these type of instructions have situations where they really can extend the power of what you're doing in assembly. By the way, this type of thing where we look into a table, grab information out of it, and use that to jump somewhere, this is called indirect addressing, opposed to direct addressing. It's just a term that they use for saying we're going into something. Now,
so it's like a relative versus absolute.
Well, even more so in the fact that we're diving into data. Now, I'm going to save you a little bit, Steve, because next week, that's when we're really going to get into all the different addressing modes that not only the jump can use, but when you load up information, when you're doing other things with the 6809. That one there, we might raise the death count a little bit, but I decided to take it easy on you and not talk about the different addressing modes that are available in the Coco. And trust me, Curtis is over there chomping out the bit saying, I love next week's episode.
Yeah.
I say we do it now.
Yeah,
we'll call it the meltdown episode, I think.
Yeah. Well, Curtis and I will try and go easy on you, Steve, next week for that one. But anyways, why don't we go to the next slide? Because we are going to talk about a few more things. Now, this slide really just reiterates what I'm saying is there are other addressing modes, and we're going to handle that in a later session. So, let's go to this one. Much like good old BASIC, we have Go subs, and this is used to save from writing code over and over again. If you come up with a routine, a little bit of code that you like using a lot in BASIC, you make it a subroutine and you call it. So you don't have to have it all over your program. It's a great way to save space. And of course, assembly language has it too. And there's 3 basic instructions for that in assembly language: branch to subroutine, long branch to subroutine, and jump to subroutine. And why don't we go to the next slide and we'll do the first.
There are no arithmetic branch to subroutines. So.
Oh, in my code, there definitely is.
All right, so here's our BSR, branch to
It's very
subroutine.
much like the branch always instruction that we've talked about before. The instruction consists of a command and 1 byte. The byte is how far backwards and forwards to go from this instruction to find that call, that subroutine that you want to jump to. So its range is a negative 126 to a positive 129 from the instruction. Now, when you get to that subroutine, you have to know, hey, I got to come back. I'm done. I have to come back to whoever called me. That is done with an RTS. That's return from subroutine to get back. So that's kind of like the return in BASIC. Very simple. Very
Go sub return.
And the example I show at the very bottom of the slide, sorry, it's almost off the screen there. BSR time delay. This is like, I wrote some code that does a short time delay. I use it quite a bit. So I call it, it goes off and does it and comes back. Just like BASIC. There are some gotchas. We'll go over those in a few moments, but let's go to the next slide. All right. Well, as I said, the last instruction was limited in range. You could only do a subroutine that was pretty close. The long branch to subroutine has the entire range of memory. In other words, it's very much similar to the long branch instruction. Long branch always. It will go off to the subroutine, and it can be more than that negative 126, 129 range. It can be thousands of bytes somewhere else.
Anywhere in 64K.
Exactly. So it gives you the full range. It's very simple. It does the same thing where you get to the routine. When you're done with at the routine, you do an RTS, and it will come back and start executing the program, just like the way the Go sub works in BASIC, and goes off and does the code and continues down after the Go sub. So works the same way. Let's go to the next slide. Let's keep moving through these. Don't want to take too long. All right. Jump to subroutine is one where you've got lots of different addressing modes, like what we have with the old jump instruction where you're jumping to a location, and it goes off. You do the call, and it comes back with that same same return from subroutine operation. I've got an example here where you do a JSR, and it's got that fancy brackets again for indirect, $A000. This is the routine that calls the character read from the keyboard that's in the ROM. And actually what's stashed at A0000, A3 zeros, is the location in the ROM that actually has the routine. So by jumping this location, no matter how the ROM is changed by the different people that worked on it, it knows where to jump. Basically, it's just an example that I'm using where you can see with the JSR, you can do a lot more than just simply jump to a location. You can do other things. And all that type of different addressing we'll cover in next week's lesson.
Yeah, and this is an excellent example too of why you have absolute and relative versions. Like the branches, like if you want to relocate your program and move it around, it'll follow where you're going, but your ROMs don't move generally. So in this case, you want to, no matter where your program loads, you want it to jump to that exact location where the polecat routine, in this case, the whole keyboard routine is, and that doesn't move. So that you would use an absolute JSR rather than a BSR.
Exactly, and they definitely had that foresight when they're designing the 6809 as far as getting that in there. Now, much like BASIC, subroutine calls can be nested. In other words, a subroutine could call another subroutine, could call another subroutine, and they'll all know where back to go from when you hit that return instruction. BASIC keeps track of who's calling from where and how to go back and like that. But in the case of the 6809, it does the same thing, but you've got to do more work. That's one thing you're going to learn about 6809. It's up to you to hoist that load and put it on your back and carry it with you. And the 6809 uses something called the stack or the stack register. All the BSRs, LBSRs, and JSRs place their return locations on the stack. And of course, the RTS simply removes that return location off the stack to go back. So the routine that you're calling, it don't care if it was a BSR, JSR, or LBSR as far as who called it, because they all do functionally the same thing of putting their return address on the stack, and then the RTS instruction, the return from subroutine instruction, pulls that information off the stack. So there's no confusion between those 3 different JSR or calling instructions. It all works out correctly, right? Right,
Yeah,
Curtis?
you don't need 3 versions of an RTS instruction. You can just use the same RTS for all 3 types, which makes it nice and easy.
I need like a 30-second decompressor. I've just heard so many, and I couldn't help but laugh. I didn't want to interrupt you, Steve, but I couldn't help by starting to think, well, is there an LGBTQ routine in there? There's just so many freaking abbreviations.
That's a long branch greater than or equal to
processor.
Well, Stevie, I was trying to get to DEFCON 4.
Oh, Christ.
And
so today,
also to prepare you for next week's lesson on the different addressing modes and the all too powerful load effective address instruction.
Okay, looks like Bruce Moore is raising his hand. Bruce, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I wonder for a description of what exactly a stack is, or a metaphor. Or something.
We're coming to that.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Stevie, do you have any questions to kind of get a breather here?
No, I just needed to take a breath because I heard so many acronyms in one slide that my head almost did explode. So
I will try and say branch to subroutine instead of BSR. I don't want to pull a David Ladd on you.
Dry wire.
And yeah, no, because I do have a sinus condition right now. I do have a lot of pressure in my head, so there's not a lot of room for additional things to get in here. So.
But basically, the bottom line with this slide is to say that whether it's a branch from subroutine, a long branch from subroutine, or a jump from subroutine, the return doesn't matter. They all effectively take where they've got to come back to and stick it on the stack, and then they do. And then of course the return from subroutine instruction just simply says, oh, I'll take it off the stack. Oh, this is where I got to go. And it pops back there.
Yeah. It's just like basic where you have on go sub and you have a plain go sub. You just use the same return and command to come back. It doesn't matter which version of it called it.
Right. It's just like magic. It just knows it's going to return from wherever it was called.
But the thing is, and what I'm also alluding to in this slide a little bit, is you have to do some work with the stack. Anyways, let's go to the next slide.
Okay, we're moving on. Sorry about the interruption. I just needed a breather.
I was covering it rather quickly. Now, the stack in the 1609 is controlled by a register we haven't talked much about. It's called the S register. Boy, it's doesn't make it too hard to understand what the S for stack.
Huh?
And the stack is used. It's built from the top and works its way down. In other words, it's pointing someplace in memory. And when you do some sort of BSR, branch to subroutine or long branch to subroutine or any of that stuff, it pushes something onto the stack. It literally goes downward. It goes from the high location to the location memory. Think of it as you're at a buffet and they got a bunch of plates, and somebody brings out new plates and they put it on the old ones and it pushes them all down. It's kind of like that. The way the stack works is whatever's on top, you're going to pull off the next time. And if you bring out new plates, you push them down onto that stack. So it's always kind of in this thing. It's like
it's kind of
very,
springy.
very springy. That's the way it works.
Okay.
So
and you've made me hungry, too, so thank you. So
I want to mention one thing too. If somebody's coming from the 6502 or some other CPUs, they sometimes will refer to pulling off the stack as pop. Just terminology wise, I just wanted to explain that in case somebody has heard of a pop but doesn't know what a pull is.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, this segment is brought to you by Golden Corral.
Yep, it's just like those stack of plates there. So,
all right.
But that's really, that's what's kind of unique or different. And stacks have been around for a long time on computers. They go back 50s or 60s, depending on who wrote the first stack in microcode. But it's really a powerful operation because look at the return. it doesn't know who called itself, but it does know, hey, I can just grab this off the stack and I can return back to where I'm at. So you don't, it cuts down on the confusion by using that.
And it cuts down on the programmer having to, do special things. Like if you're doing direct jumps back and forth like that, then you have to know, okay, well, where did I get called from? Like if you make a subroutine that can get called from 3 different places, you would have to keep track of which one called it. They would have to come back to number 1 or number 2 or number 3.
Yeah, that could be mind.
Exactly. Yeah. And by the way, there were processors back in the early days that everybody seemed to want to come out with one where they actually had the bright idea they wouldn't put a stack register in.
Yeah, and I've worked on HP 3000 minis that were the opposite. Everything was stack based. They had no direct registers. Everything was on the stack. So you had to worry about, if you want to do the equivalent of a load A, you'd have to remember that A is always at, the second address on the stack or something like that, which I found confusing after using the 6809.
Okay. Anyways, about the middle of the slide, I talk about for the fact that when you want to push something on the stack, it effectively, you do a BSR. So it's got to put the return address of where to come back to on the stack. It effectively subtracts 2 from the stack and then writes 2 bytes to the stack of where this return address. Technically, that's not what it's doing, but effectively that's what's going on. Is it always subtracts from the stack when it puts the information on there.
Yeah. And maybe to clarify too, we should mention the stack, the S register itself is a pointer. It's a pointer to where the stack is in memory.
It's an index register. It's an index register like the X register, the Y register that we've talked about before is just another index register. And by the way, on the stack, all those beautiful addressing modes that I keep alluding to work on the stack register. So, yeah, that's why I keep on saying next week's episode, everybody's going to turn in because we're going to see how high we can raise Stevie's DEF CON level.
I might have to start coding between now and then just to get ready for this. So.
Anyways,
okay.
But that's basically when information gets put on the stack, it always subtracts first before it goes on there. By the way, when you pull information off the stack, as I said, it works its way up. It gets larger numbers. It grabs the information and then adds to itself. So it's the reversed order. That sound okay, Stevie?
I'm not sure if you just said that it increments or decrements itself, though.
It increments itself. It decrements when it saves information onto the stack. It increments when it takes it off.
Okay, so when you do a return, it just pulls a word from the stack, 16-bit value, and then it jumps down another 16 bits to the next value in the stack. So every time it returns, it goes to the next number in the queue, basically,
Exactly.
kind of like a turnstile.
Or just like those plates. When you take a plate, all of a sudden another one pops up.
Another one pops up. Right.
That's exactly how it works.
All right.
Now, the thing is, you got to always make sure there is enough room for all that information you're putting on the stack. If you don't, you get buffer overrun errors. Where have we heard that before?
Microsoft.
Yeah.
Windows, DOS.
Mac, everybody has that problem.
Everybody. So this is what I said. Now, in the case of BASIC, it manages for you. But remember, there were some options in the clear command that allows you to set up more space for the stack.
Okay.
Well, you just have to sit there and say, when I build a buffer for my stack, I've got enough room.
Yeah, and make sure it doesn't, if you put it too small and you put it too near your program, you can actually start putting stuff on the stack and then start overwriting your own code, which can cause all kinds of problems.
Now, one trick that I used, this is just off on the side, a little note, not going to be a test on it, but one trick I would use when I'm developing my games back in the day is I would write some code through the buffer that I've set up for the stack, something unique like it would look like the @ sign if you displayed it on the screen or something. And then I would run my program. Then I would go back and I would verify how far all those little codes I had written in the buffer had been changed by the stack working. That way I could see, gee, am I almost out of stack space, or do I have a lot more stack space and not have to worry about it? It's something that when we get into the more advanced programming elements, we're going to go over and talk about, setting up the stack buffer and making sure that you don't have any problems, because that's one thing that we definitely in this whole series is we want to point out where you can have issues so that you don't necessarily get into trouble. So why don't we go to the next slide?
Okay. We're moving on.
Okay, here's a simple little thing where we load the S register with the number 200. It's pointing to a stack buffer that I've set up that's from 100 hex to 1 FF hex, basically the second 256 bytes of RAM. I'm using the first 256 bytes of RAM for my direct page, which is a type of addressing mode we'll talk more about next week. Then I do a call, BSR to time delay, and it will put its information onto the stack at location 1FE and 1FF, because they are 2 less than the 200 I had started with in the stuff. And then of course I do another call. So this is an example of a very large buffer, but it shows that I've set up my stack. And really setting up the stack is not that hard. It's just setting aside space and then telling the CPU with the load S command where the stack buffer is going to be. It's not really that much magic. It's just maintenance you got to do. Right, Kurt?
All right, so that hex 200 basically says you're getting everything up to that value?
I'm saying that starting at basically less than 200 is where all the informations go. Because like, for example, when I call the subroutine, the BSR in time delay, before the information is placed on the stack, what does it do? It subtracts 2 and writes the information. So it will actually go in 1FE and 1FF. It will not go into 200.
Right. How does it know to stop at 100?
It don't.
That's up to you.
That's when you get a over buffer run error. That's when your program starts messing up. And that's the thing, is you have to decide in your code how much space you need for stacking information.
Yeah. And BASIC does have that problem too. As Steve was mentioning, the clear command, you allocate how much space you want to use. And it defaults, 200 or something, if I remember? But if you do a whole bunch of nested subroutines and stuff like that, you can overflow BASICs too and have it crash with an error. So the same thing. I mean, there you would allocate more space if you're having problems, or string space. It allocated stuff on the stack for string space as well. And it's the same thing here. It's just a little bit more manual on your side. You don't have BASIC doing some of the stuff for you, but you do have to keep track of it yourself.
Okay.
Let's move on to the next slide. Okay. The stack can also be used to save and restore registers. These are the like the A and B registers, the X register, and stuff like that. This is very handy if you are going to call some subroutine that's going to change the B register, but you want to make sure that you have a copy of itself. Now you could store it someplace off in memory, but you also have the option to push that information that's contained in the register onto the stack. And that is done with the push on system stack instruction, which is called PSHS. Boy, it's tough to say. But it basically copies the content of the register onto the stack. Now the pull does the exact opposite. It pulls it off the stack and puts it into the register. So it's a way to remember, like those plates that we had at the restaurant. Let's say that you had a plate that you wanted to save for a little bit later. You just put it on that stack of plates, and then when you come back later, you can take it off. And so that's exactly what you're doing. You're putting it on there. And then you can pull it off. Now, The one thing is you got to remember, you got to pull it off in the order that you push. And remember, the subroutines are also pushing on there too. So you don't want some idiot coming up in the buffet in between when you put the plate on that stack. Grab that plate off the stack before you come back. In other words, you're going to have to probably put a guard up there and make sure nobody takes your plate. In other words, you're going to have to keep track of it. So if you put information on the stack, you got to make sure you take the information off the stack in the order, and you got to be very careful about subroutines in the sense that you don't want to put something on the stack and have the subroutine try and pull the information off incorrectly, and then you pull it off. You can see there could be confusions. So you just got to be very guarded about how you put information on the stack and how you pull it off.
Yep.
Okay.
Curtis, you want to add something there?
I was just going to mention, like, for example, if you're calling a subroutine that's going to do some calculations, and let's say I need to use the X and the A and B registers to do this calculation, but when I come back from a subroutine, I want my answer in X only. I don't want A and B mucked around with. So you would do a push A, comma B, comma X, do your little fiddling calculations, and then you would do the pull, or you would pull D. Well, this is not the most optimal example, but I'd pull D off and then I'd replace D with whatever the value that I was wanting to return with, and then pull X to actually get the X back to where it originally had started with. There's a few other ways to do it. You can modify stuff on the stack too, but basically you would use it to try to preserve things that you want to keep from the subroutine if you have to use a bunch of registers to do whatever that subroutine does.
I think our next slide will show a little bit more of what Curtis was talking about.
DEFCON 3.
Yeah. Hopefully it explains it better than I just did.
Okay. Let's say
it couldn't
we're
be
going to
any
go
worse.
back to that example we had before where we're loading up the X register and we're using the B register to go through and figure out which one of these addresses in our table to jump to. Well, let's say that the B and the X register we want to save from wherever we're coming from, because we're going to use them to figure out the jump. So the first thing we do in our instruction is we push onto the stack the X and B register. This saves them onto the stack. Now we load up X. Hey, it doesn't matter. We've saved it. We can now use X, load it up with a list of our subroutines that we want to jump to, load up the B register with which one these particular jumps we want to do a call to, multiply B times 2 by doing a logical shift to the left B, and then we do a JSR indirect B comma of X, which basically goes off and calls our routine. So when we get there, what's been pushed onto the stack is where to come back to. That routine does its work. You do a return instruction, RTS, and then it comes back, and our last instruction is pull off the stack B comma X. It gets that information off the stack, and the B and X registers have been restored. They're back to what they used to be. So this is an example of how you can use the push and pull instructions to save information that you might be kind of destroying because you're doing some work here.
Right, you just have to be kind of calculated in the application of this, because anytime you do a go sub, you're pushing to stack down one plate. You want to make sure that when you return, you're right back to the same plate that you stored everything on.
Yeah,
right? You're not
exactly.
Okay.
So you
Gotcha.
know, they're very powerful. There's lots of tricks that we can do here. We're not going to show you those tricks, but the main thing is that this is how we can use the stack to temporarily store something, because the other way to store something is we could set aside variables in direct page to put information in. We could go through and there's other ways of doing it, but the stack gives us very easy temporary storage, and it also allows us to do recursive temporary storage. The recursive thing, as I said before, with when you do a go sub in BASIC, that can call another go sub that calls another go sub. Well, this type of thing here, we're also doing kind of recursive data storing. We're saving this on the stack, And then when we come back later, we're able to get that same information. This is why you may have to have hundreds of bytes of data for your stack, because you've got so much information being pushed temporarily on the stack and then pulled off in the process of, let's say, a game, that you need that space. That makes sense there, Stevie?
Yep. I'm just getting hungry. Keep talking about plates and stacks.
I know.
Okay.
Let's go to the next slide.
We're moving on.
Now, the push instruction can save any or all the registers, including the condition code flag. And they're always pushed onto the stack in the same order. And I've listed an order here. Now, any or all those registers can be pushed or pulled in one time. And that's the beauty of the 6809, is you list which particular registers. Like in the last example, I showed that we were pushing the B and the X. It knows the order of how to push them on the stack and pull them off the stack. So I don't have to think about that. But also, I could have added in pushing the Y register or pushing the A register. But all this stuff, they can be pushed. By the way, the PC, that's the program counter, and that's where the current instructions are being executed. And there are some tricks you can do with that. But these are the order that they get pushed and pulled off the stack. And to kind of see this a little better, let's go to the next slide. I've got a graphic for you to help kind of visualize a little bit better. Up at the top of all these different little squares, this is a representation of memory. And you see that FFFF, that's the highest point of memory. And down at the bottom, you got 0, 0, 0, 0. That's the bottom part of memory. And it shows how information is pushed on the stack, going from the top, working its way down, and then the same thing for pulling up the other way. And that's the order. It's simple. That's the way it works. It never changes the order.
And then one of the beauties of the 6809 is that you can push and pull multiple registers in one instruction. And a lot of the other 8-bit CPUs, you had to push each one individually. So you'd have to do a push A and a push X and a push Y type thing. And the 6809, you can just specify. And if you actually count the registers it's pushing or pulling, the maximum you can do is 8. So if you look at the actual instruction for push or pull, the second byte is the basically bit flags, and it's 1 bit per register. So CC is 1 bit, and A is 1 bit, and B is 1 bit. And you count that there's actually 8 registers that you can push and pull in a single instruction. And just to allude to something probably in a bit in the future here for advanced programming, is that's the basis of stack blasting, that you can have one instruction.
That's what I was going to just cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it basically, as you can see, there's multiple bytes being written and read at the same time. And that's why they use stack blasting to pull and push information into the computer's video memory a little faster than doing it a byte or two at a time. So
I'm sure Simon's very familiar with that.
Yeah. Anyways, now besides,
I just went to the next slide.
Perfect, because we need to move on. We don't want to hurt Stevie too much. Besides the system stack, there is also the user stack. This is a separate register. It's called U. Boy, they're so original with these names, aren't they? Anyways, the user stack works the same way as the system stack, but it's for pushing information that the user uses. It's a way to have a separate stack, separate from the system stack, where all these call to a subroutine get pushed. This one here could be separate data. So this is where you can have a buffer somewhere else in memory where you can push and pull information onto the stack and save it and like that. And by the way, OS9 uses this extensively.
Yep. Right? Every single data area that every single program, including the system process, actually uses user stack for pointing to where that is.
Now
Somebody in the chat room is asking, like, why would you just, like, he was kind of get ahead of it, but he was going, why would you just not use the user stack at all times? And there's a few specific reasons. One I will just mention here, we're probably not going to get into it in much detail until later, is that IRQs are all based on the hardware stack. So if you're getting an IRQ from an RS-232 card or something like that, you want to be able to access a system stack to be able to figure out, where the data from the RS-232 port is, or, where the IRQ happened, that type of thing.
Yep. And by the way, this beginning of system stack, user stack, well, the user stack, only the user in later processors could access. The system stack was not allowed by user programs. And this is part of trying to make it so that computers are more secure. Because trust me, when they're developing the original processors, security was not an issue, not a concern. They didn't put much in there. This system and user stack that you see in the 6809 is the first inkling of trying to get some sort of security. In the 68000, there was more security. Later, 8086 based processors like the 386, 486 got more security. And they've been trying to write more security into the processors as we've been going along. So
Yeah.
this is the beginning of a true computer processor.
And as far as I remember, the 609 was the very first CPU that had the user stack as a separate stack, correct? Like 652, that only had the system stack. So you always had to mix and match between your stuff and the CPU stuff.
Exactly. But anyways, this U register can be used for this user stack if you want, and it makes extensive use in OS 9. I have to admit, in my video games, I never used it as a user stack. I used it as a regular 16-bit pointer, just like the X and Y registers, and it always pointed to my data structure of the particular object that I was working on. And that will definitely be something that will be coming up in later sessions of this series. But let's see. Let's go to the next slide.
Which I think is the last slide. Okay.
Now, we briefly touched on addressing modes with the jump and the jump to subroutine instructions. Next time, we're going to be covering the powerful 6809 addressing modes. And there's a lot of them, and they all make sense, and they're really powerful. And there's one instruction that goes with it that will make no sense at first, but it'll kind of like the light bulb will come on. It's called load effective address, the LEA instruction. And yes, definitely tune in next time to watch Stevie's head hit DEFCON 1.
Excellent.
I don't, the next one here, I'm sorry, it is going to get a little technical because there's lots of options, lots of addressing modes to go through.
Yeah, and it's also one of the reasons the 6809 was the most powerful 8-bit CPU.
Yep.
Change my mind. Right. So yeah.
And one
okay.
thing, in the way they've set up the 6809, one of the things I've always said, with a lot of CPUs, it was a lot of work trying to figure out how to do something. The 6809 was the first one I ever used that had the aspect where there was multiple ways to do it. They just came up with lovely different way, and you just had to find the one that worked best for you in that situation.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you for another great segment. Bruce, before I forget, and while you're still here, we do need to show off your latest Coco Forever teaser, right?
Sure.
Is there anything you need to use to talk this up, or we just play it and let it run?
It's just announcing another episode is ready to go. So.
All right. For those of you not aware of the Coco Forever project, we have here with us Bruce Moore, who's made that project, and he's got a brand new teaser for the latest episode. So let's run that real quick. Because Bruce is here, I didn't want to forget.
How does it feel?
Coco Forever.
I'm still
I haven't seen any of the other retro or even modern communities try to pull off something like this. This is unique.
Next to the Switcheroo, the hottest selling Coco product of 2018.
Episode 7 of 9. Control Break. Chuck Anders must find a way to reverse the changes to the timeline, or the entire world goes up in flames. CoCoForever.gracenote.ca.
Wow. We don't want the entire world going up in flames, do we?
No, otherwise David Ladd has to come and rescue it all again.
Yeah, that's it.
I have a question for you, Bruce.
All right, well,
Bruce, how far along? Like, I'm still of that mindset that I want to pull the trigger when the whole thing's released so I can binge the whole thing. How far away are we from having the complete series?
Well, this is number 7 of 9, not like Star Trek, but
not a bad tie-in.
So this is episode 7. 9 is the final episode. I mean, it's cool.
So we're roughly 2 episodes away, right? I think he's looking for a time frame.
Time frame? Yeah. Well, what can I say? I soon. I'm chipping away at it. 8's almost ready. 9's just gonna take a little. I gotta finesse it a little bit more because it wraps everything up. So let's say, what is it? September 29 now. I would think the whole thing should be done before when's Tandy Assembly? November something.
November, yeah.
I would think by Halloween, probably I should be able to have the whole thing done.
Okay, that's when I'm pulling the trigger.
Okay, awesome.
Halloween-ish.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. Halloween-ish.
We started in springish. We might finish by fallish.
I had a quick question for you, Bruce. As you've been going through and recording it and doing everything, has the plot changed from your original guidelines a bit, or like has it adapted as you've gone through and thought of things, or has it basically been following the same script you originally came up with?
The very final piece, the final bit of dialogue has changed. Yeah, so there's been a small change at the end. As I got right up to the end, it was like, yeah, this isn't quite pulling it all together, and I got a broader view of it, the whole thing, and so I did actually change one piece at the end, but otherwise it's essentially stayed the same.
Okay, so you're going to be like a DVD and have an alternative endings version of the last episode too, with the original, or?
No, I hadn't really thought about that, but I definitely want to get everybody on the credits. I want to have a really nice credit roll, trying to list absolutely everybody who contributed. So
cool.
Maybe there'll be something after the credits.
Then we can get David Ladd in a bathrobe. If we're lucky.
Jesus!
So
there went your sales. Sorry.
Are you?
up.
No, I'm still here. No, are you going to do a T-shirt or anything, or a mug?
I could.
I think it'd be a good idea to do a T-shirt. I would definitely buy another one.
Oh, okay. I will look into that. Thanks, Greg.
No problem.
Hey, I gotta say, episode 7. I mean, there's a couple of great guest appearances there, and Greg is one of them. You really want to check out.
Ooh, that ought to get the boost the sales right there. More Greg. All right. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours, and I do want to try to make today's show a little bit shorter because I do need some rest, and hopefully we can do a second show tonight. So how about we take a quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll have some follow-up discussions on the assembly segment, questions, comments, add-ons, and then we'll see how it goes from there. So we'll be right back, folks.
Hi, this is Sean Wheatley, and you're listening to CoCoTALK with the original gamer, Steve Bjork.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
CoCoTALK is brought to you in part by Placeblex Dietary Supplement. Placeblex, we think it works, so will you.
Twice in one day. What a great moment for Richard.
Value added.
Yes. I love those slow motion reactions there. Johnny Knoxville is the name I was thinking of there. Ooh, take my money.
Hey, Richard. You know, this
From Radio Shack, the TRS-80 Model 3. And at $200 off, it's a great value. Select from Radio Shack's huge program library to aid your children's education, plan your personal and household budgets, or to entertain with fast-action games. You can even learn to write programs. The TRS-80 Model 3, on sale for $7.99, only at Radio Shack and Radio Shack Computer Centers, the computer experts.
Sorry about that,
no,
Steve.
no,
Go
no.
ahead.
I was just, looking at what's been happening with the Boomerang board. Did you have a feeling that you should name it Boomerang? Because they keep coming back for you for upgrades.
Where is Richard still here?
Yeah.
I think we lost Richard.
He's not here.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
lost
well.
Richard.
But
He
that's the
boomerang
thing.
back to where he came from.
Yeah, I will say one thing as a hardware developer, he comes up with good ideas, but he doesn't leave the people who bought his product out in the lurch. I don't know how many times I bought something and then, gee, version 2 just came out and I'm stuck.
Yeah. It seems like every time he comes up with a new version and he gives a free upgrade to everybody who's bought the old version too. So
great customer support.
He can't complain about that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can't complain about that. All right. So from the panel, questions, comments, add-ons, thoughts about the assembly segment. We did our jump subroutines, all that stuff. Anybody want to add
Including
to that?
you, Stevie, if you have any questions.
No, I just want the pain.
You might have to take a break next week.
I followed it. Yeah, right now.
I was looking at my beaker image and thinking it was a live camera on your face, Stevie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Paul Fiscarelli was chiming in a little bit on the assembly stuff, and we had Paul on last week for our After Dark. Paul's going to start his little YouTube tutorial on assembly from the beginner's perspective.
Yeah, his first episode's up now.
I'm glad that we have... Yep. Yeah, oh, great. So, Paul, Paul, you are a moderator, so if you want to post a link to your YouTube channel or to your latest video, Paul, go ahead and put that in the live chat. Yeah, I'm glad that this content is out there for people. I hope it's going to spark some interest. It seems like the assembly series definitely has some interest from people. I have a number of people saying, can I get the slides? Can I get a copy of the slides and stuff like that? So I try to remind people that we will be taking these segments and editing them out into their own standalone series. So the assembly series itself will run as a standalone series. We'll just strip it out of the episodes of CoCoTALK that it was in.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Not really. You just little cut off both sides and save it as a new file. Just a little bit, not a lot. So yeah, there's more content coming. Paul Fiscarelli. Okay, so he just posted his link to his latest one, which is great. So Paul's going to have a series. We have Steve Bjork series here. I'll be starting my own assembly series, hopefully in the very near future. So hopefully as we all learn and share, and Bruce Moore, you've been doing quite a bit, right? You've been hybriding in assembly with Basic 09 and Basic and things like that.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot lately and really looking forward to these presentations to fill in the gaps. The stack is something that back in the day I had no clue about, and I'm just starting to get a clue now, so I'm really appreciating this.
Just remember, it's like being at Golden Corral. You just push a plate, you push a plate, you pull a plate, right?
Okay.
So
You don't have those.
Just got to be careful.
Yep. Otherwise you end up with broken plates.
Simon's posted a recent video too of one of his little demos where he's playing music and animating a bunch of stuff in assembly. too. So we always appreciate. What are you shaking your head for? Yes, you did. I saw it.
No, it's basic. Basic.
Oh, it's in basic.
Is that 2-layer basic?
Yeah. Salvador Garcia says that 2019 will be the year of the 6809 assembly courses. Yeah. So yeah,
now
they're coming.
one thing
they're
is
coming.
that Paul and I have decided that we're going to be using the same assembler, so that will help a little bit when it comes to writing the code, and we're getting close to that. We're I think we got about 2 more lessons on the foundations of the instructions. Next week being the real biggie, which is the addressing modes. And then there's the loose end instructions, the ones that really don't fit in a category. And as far as stuff to do with interrupts and other technical hardware stuff like that, that's going to be definitely done much later in lessons, because I don't want Stevie to have too many episodes where it's DEFCON 1.
Yeah, because we already know he'll just shut the show down if it gets too.
Trying to
press the button, Frank.
Maybe I should be hosting next week then, just to make sure that doesn't happen.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, we're probably a couple weeks away from actually sitting down and writing code. And part of what I'm looking at here doing is coming up with a very basic game in assembly for Stevie basically to code. And that game will be available, the entire source code. People will be able to download it and put it on their own Coco and work along with us.
That's
so,
cool.
It'll probably end up being something like Pong. And maybe the next one we do will be Breakout. But just very, very, very simple games. And eventually we'll get up to something more elaborate. But,
That's cool. That's kind of how the games in the arcade started too, like Pong being one of the earliest arcade games and Breakout. So it's kind of following video game evolution as well. So
yeah, it was Steve Wozniak that made Breakout use only about 100 chips, where the original design was looking at 400.
Wow. He was the master of cost reduction, right? Part reduction. So,
and people still curse some of that stuff in the Apple today.
Yeah. I was going to say something. No, but I mean, honestly, we have so many people who are like this series that Steve Bjork is doing, and the fact that he's going to teach us from the ground up how to make a video game. That's so great. The fact that we have people like Simon who are making all these cool demos and showing us those source codes, and now Paul Fiscarelli, and we've had Glenn Hewlett. So many people have been doing blogs on assembly. And sharing that journey, optimizing assembly. The list goes on. I can't remember everybody's name who's done it. So the resources are out there. And I know we had that discussion, I think last week. We would like to have more software. Being careful not to dismiss that there are people making software, so we want to acknowledge and thank those people who are making the software they are. But we always want more, right? That's our human nature. We want more software. We want more games. We want more and more and more. So hopefully this content that's being produced on helping people pick up the programming mantle might inspire and help some people get her done. And, I'm looking forward to that. I don't know that I have permission to show it right now, but I'll just tell you guys, John Strong has been helping me with my Cosmic Aliens game now. He's rewritten some of the ROM calls in assembly. So now not only do I have a faster P copy, I've got a faster get and put for my sprites. I've got faster fonts now too. So my game in BASIC with just these assembly routines, it is an incredibly much more faster game. It's a hard to play game now. So yeah, the assembly is real. I mean, what it can do and the speed it can provide you.
It's amazing.
So
seriously. You're writing a game, it's getting faster, it's requiring faster reflexes. So you're writing your own game that you can't get past level 1.
Wow.
Yes.
With that, the show ended.
Yeah. And Nick Marentes, we haven't heard from you in a bit. How have you been, sir?
Oh, not too bad. Been fairly busy at work at the moment, so very little Coco time, but
I'm just prodding along on my Gunstar game slowly.
Excellent. Do you have a core dump you want to discuss with
No,
us
I
today?
haven't had the time to think about that. So yeah, we'll skip this week.
Are you still standing upside down?
Still upside down. Yep.
I did see something in the chat that I wanted to address. Nick says in here that I'm hoping Steve will recreate Zaxxon for us. I did that back in '89.
That wasn't me. It's someone else.
Yeah, it's another Nick.
No, Nick Marotta.
Nick Marotta.
Yeah.
He's kind of like Beetlejuice. You have to say his name 3 times. Nick Marotta. Nick Marotta. So,
Well, maybe we need a 2018 version of Zaxxon.
Yeah, 609 version.
Yeah,
That's what
6309 version. Yeah.
With using 2 megs.
2 megs. Yeah, using the boomerang board,
That's
right?
a
So the boomerang's an accelerator. It should make it faster.
Hey, you could use the 640 mode with the same 4 colors as the original Zaxxon.
The original had more than 4 colors.
Well, the original Coco version.
Oh, the Coco version.
Yeah.
How much RAM did your Z89 take?
It's so long ago, it's hard to remember, but I think it did fit in a 128K.
Right.
Most of the space was not taken up by graphics. It was taken up by the audio samples.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was 128K from what I remember.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how about we start to plan on wrapping up part 1 of today's show? We're going to wrap up the day show. Hopefully, we can do another show tonight, another After Dark. We had a great one last week. Yeah, I need to save some of my brain cells and save some of the sinus pressure. I got to decompress for a little bit so I can do this again. We had a good show. There's plenty more to talk about, but we won't talk about it all now. We'll save some for tonight for an After Dark. So we're not ending, but we're letting you know we're going to end soon. So before we go, is there anything I didn't talk about that we probably should talk about? Ron, were you getting ready to say something?
Yeah.
We're pausing. Yes.
Have we mentioned Nick Marotta?
We probably need.
I don't think we have.
Tandy Assembly too.
We need to cover Tandy Assembly. Well, we know. Let me find the website.
I can get one of those free Harbor Freight tarps, and we can cover it with that.
I want to rent a C5 Galaxy and bring my stuff over there.
A C5 Galaxy?
The big jet. The front end
huge cargo
goes
jet?
down. Yeah.
Yeah, just to pick up everything from the auction. Right. So the date hasn't changed, right? November 10th and 11th in Springfield, Ohio. Let's see if we have any new exhibitors that we haven't covered already. Eric Dittman, TRS-80 Clones. I think that's a new addition. CocoMan.biz. Jason is going to be there.
There goes the show.
Digital Dino. There goes the show. Eric Canales. Okay. Paul Fiscarelli. Yay. Neil Blanchard is going to be here. Jim O'Keefe. Retro Innovations. Cloud9. Peter Bartlett. Yeah. So we have a few more exhibits. Do we have any more speakers mentioned as of yet? Stuart Chaffee, Arno Puter, and Sasha Haberling. They spoke last time. It was a good speech. Thomas McLaren. Arthur A. Gleckler, One Kid's Weird Journey into Software. Jim McGinley, TRS-80 Games. Do you guys recognize the name Jim McGinley?
No.
Not ringing a bell.
Okay. Well,
Glecker, I do. He wrote the last Big 5 software program, Weird, I think it's called. So
One Kid's Weird Journey into Software.
He's a game programmer for the TRS-80. Yeah.
Excellent.
Back in the day, I caught the guy that started Big 5 Software digging
Bill
through
Hogue.
my dumpster bin behind my office looking for source code listings. Him and I were in competition back then.
Was this during Datasoft days or pre-Datasoft?
Oh, this is way before Datasoft. This is like 1979, 1980, somewhere in that time frame.
Gotcha. I think Chad had to leave, Nick's neighbor, but he was asking a question about something. So let's just talk real quick. And it's kind of a joke, and I always try to make a joke out of everything. But so last week we had on our 2 different episodes a couple of different copyright strikes, and it's interesting how YouTube does things. And at the core of this mechanism, I believe the intent is fairly good. We want to protect people's content from being misused by other people. So at that core, I agree with that. And as a content creator, I agree with, hey, if I'm making a show, I would like people not to use my show on their show without my permission, so on. So that part I agree with. But what I don't like is how YouTube's just arbitrarily, if a corporation says, hey, there's content in small-time person's video, and I now claim copyright to that content, well, then that small-time person, they have lost access to their own video. That's the part that I have a problem with, right? So if I aired something and YouTube doesn't like it, well, I would like the ability to say, okay, my bad. Let me go ahead and download my video. Let me edit out that material, and I'll just repost it minus the material that YouTube didn't like me showing. YouTube doesn't let you do that. And so that's it. So I think Chad thought I was getting banned from YouTube or something like that. It's not really a ban, but what it is it's an inability for the person who created a video to have access to their own video. And that part I do have an issue with. I don't have an issue with trying to defend copyright from this kind of unilateral situation, but I do have an issue with, okay, but now you can no longer download your own video. That part I don't like. I also have a problem with, if I have a 2-hour show and there's 30 seconds of content they don't like, well, I can't monetize the other, 1 hour, 59 minutes and 30 seconds of my show. I can't monetize the entire show because of 30 seconds of content. There's just no flexibility. It's a very tight regime in how they do this, and it's just a pain in the ass. So basically what I had to do at least with the After Dark, because Chad had asked us to show off some of these videos, kids react to old computers, and we showed it off, and that's fine. It was okay. But those videos prevented me from being able to download the episode. And I usually take those downloads so I can make the podcast. I just download the video, I strip out the audio, I make the podcast. And I used to always create a local recording. And I stopped creating the local recordings because we haven't had any issues. But every now and then we have this issue. Now, I also have backup places because I'm multi-stream. I can download from Twitch. I can download from Mixer. So I've got other sources to get my content back. But I have a personal issue with this all or nothing approach that they have. And at the end of the day, it just slows me down from getting out my podcast. And like I say, I agree with some of it, but I don't agree with this whole totalitarian approach that, you know what, that one clip means you can't have your video back, so but listen, that's their world, and we're just visiting it, so I can't control all that. But just to let you guys know, when I mentioned that we had some copyright strikes, it is what it is, So and so the After Dark got edited and then republished to YouTube, so that those clips that they didn't like, they're gone. But it was just a long process for me to get to be able to do that. But yeah, so I'm not banned from YouTube. Obviously, I'm here streaming, stuff like that. So
do they have a 30-second rule, kind of like fair uses for newspapers and magazines and stuff? Do you know?
No.
No, honestly, I don't know. I don't know how their algorithms work, but to me, the algorithms are all about avoiding YouTube from getting into a lawsuit. Yeah. So it's really more about cover our asses at the expense of anybody else. It's really protect us. It's not, and really, it doesn't feel like it's content creator friendly, because I'm just this little guy here trying to make a show. And because Evil Corp says, nope, you showed my video, you can't have your video back, and you can't monetize it. I've actually had videos that were shut down, like when we did the cowbell thing, because NBC Universal owned that Saturday Night sketch. They shut down that video. It wasn't able to be seen again. And again, I have a problem with a corporation having more power than me, saying, no, you've aired a minute and a half of our content, so your 3-hour show is now stricken from the record and nobody can ever see it again. To me, that's too much control, and there's no balance. That part I don't agree with. Again, but who am I? I'm just a little guy. I can't.
Well, the reason I was asking is
I can't
like
change the
Twitch has
machine.
hit that on occasion too, where they've had to change some of the shows. But they basically, from what I understand, found that if you do 30 seconds or less, you can't go any past that. Then it's under the fair use copyright, and then they don't have a say in it at all. As long as you cut the video off.
Stevie, are you doing a manual review? Are you disputing them?
Well, in order to dispute it, before they'll even consider disputing it, it needs to have 1,000 views. Another convenient thing they create that just screws small time people. They just, to me, honestly, and I know I'm going on a rant here, but they're making it more and more difficult for small channels to ever have any chance of growing or making any money. And it's just, to me, it's a backwards philosophy. It's anti-creator, but it is what it is. I'm not doing this to make money, obviously, because I'm still here and I still have a job. But yeah, some of the things they do, I'm not a fan of, but as a platform, YouTube has been great. 90% of you here, I know, because of YouTube. So I can't complain against the big picture, but there are certain things they do I'm not too crazy about, but as far as their algorithms, I don't know if the algorithm looks at the length of time and makes any type of
I would guess it does, because if it's based on the legal precedent, then I think the 30-second rule, from what I understand, like if you're reviewing a song or something like that, I know a lot of channels that do reviews of songs sometimes get pulled if they play too long of a song, but as long as they keep that 30 seconds or less, they generally don't get any grief from it. I don't know if that applies fully. But.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. But, it's just what it is. But unfortunately, Chad's no longer here, but he was asking if I was banned or something. That's not a ban. It's just the worst thing will happen is they will strike down a video. I think in a super extreme case, if I had multiple quote unquote true violations against me, they could shut down my channel. Maybe after this video, they might. So who knows? Yeah. So Chris says we should build our own YouTube.
Yeah, somewhere in rights and like that, there's also a 7-second use that kicks in as far as, being okay to do it. So, like 30 seconds, you may not be able to get away with, but you can get away with 7. But, YouTube, like a lot of the corporations, they don't like to tell you the algorithms because people will then game the algorithms.
Sure. It's kind of like dropping food on the floor. You got the 2-second rule, right? So.
Is it only 2? Oh, geez, I'm poisoning myself.
All right. Well, we went way off on a tangent there. Welcome to Copyright Talk. So I would like to do an after dark. It's a little after 4, so maybe in about 5 hours we can do another one. We can do some more talking. I need some rest. I'm not sure all of us will be able to return, but hopefully some of us can. And for those of you who are watching us right now in the live chat, let's recognize those people who sat through this train wreck here. Speaking of train wrecks, my soundboard's not working again. And we don't have James Diffendaffer here today for the real life trains. But Davey Mitchell was here, Tim Franklin, Chad Cunnington was here, Mark Overholzer, Curtis Boyle, Eddie Serbinski, Steve Bjork, Al Hartman. Who else? Richard Lorbieski was in the live chat. Rob Inman was in the live chat. Retro Innovations was in the live chat. Mikey was here. I'm not sure. Mikey, is he back now from his Asian tour? Scott Wendt was here. Who else was here? Nick Marotta. Have we mentioned Nick Marotta this episode or not? So James Jones was here. Paul Fiscarelli has been here. Coco Man has been here. Who else? Kyle Eder has been here. Chad, Nick Marotta, Coco Man, Salvador Garcia from the Glenside Color Computer Club, Tim Franklin. Who else? Davey Mitchell. Again, have we caught everybody? I think we've caught everybody. Chris Peterson recently came by too. And still with us in the panel, we have L. Curtis Boyle, Ron Delvaux, Simon Jonason joined us, Steve Bjork, another great assembly segment. Thank you for that. Rob Inman. Everybody knows who Rob Inman is now. And so, Rob Inman, this is your life. Rick Adams has been here silently, hiding in the shadows. Rick, how are you?
Hello there. Thank you. You're too kind.
I was waiting for it. Didn't even have to ask for it now. Didn't have to ask for it. Barry Nelson, the grandfather of the RGB to SCART cable, is here. He's brought Sexy back. Sexy never left, but Grant Leedy has been here. D. Bruce Moore telling us all about Coco Forever. Episode 7 is here. Al Hartman from New Jersey has been here. From Down Under, Nick Marentes is here. Jason, the Coco Man Reichert. I have been your host for this show, Stevie Stroh, and I still don't have any sound on my soundboard.
Your train wreck conductor. That's what I call it.
Train wreck conductor. I've been the conductor of this train wreck. So we're going to play us out with some closing credits here and give you another chance to reflect on any other closing thoughts, and then hopefully we'll be back later tonight. Simon Jonathan. Did I mention Simon Jonathan? The Madman was here too. Did I mention Simon? I'm mentioning Simon now. All right. This concludes another episode of CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer. For all things CoCoTALK, visit us on the web at CoCoTalk.live. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to CoCoTalk@CoCoTalk.live. If you love the color computer like we do, then visit IMACoconut.com for all your color computer links needs. Consider supporting the show with a purchase of merchandise from our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, visit the Patreon link on our site at CoCoTalk.live. CoCoTalk would not exist without the community and its cast and crew. Thanks go to Curtis Boyle, David Ladd, Mark Overholzer, Grant Leedy, Bruce Moore, Nick Marentes, Ron Delvaux, Rick Adams, Jason Reichert, Richard Lorbieski, Jim Brain, Karen Anscombe, Simon Jonason, Wayne Campbell, Steve Batson, Brian Joyce, John Strong, and Barry Nelson. Special thanks to Steve Bjork for production suggestions and Brian Joyce for our best of episodes and bonus content. Please help support the Coco community by visiting some of its contributors. The Coco Crew podcast at cococrew.org. Glenside Color Computer Club, host of Coco Fest at glensidecc.com. Jim Brain and Retro Innovations at go4retro.com. Tandy Assembly at tandyassembly.com. Boyson Technologies at boysontech.com. Get your own switcheroo at cocoman.biz and Cloud9 Technologies at cloud9tech.com. CoCoTalk is hosted by Steve Strobridge, co-hosts, technical directors, segment hosts, and producers Curtis Boyle, David Ladd, Grant Leedy, Mark Overholzer, Ron Delvaux, and Jason Reichert. Production motivation, Steve Bjork. The CoCoTalk theme song is copyright 2008 by D. Bruce Moore and Greg Schalar. Mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. Coco forever, people. And let's not forget a very special thank you to Roger Taylor for getting us on the Coco TV channel on Roku. Woo! The train wreck is over, and here the Coco Cat is here. Say hi, Gizmo. Your audience is watching. So
I got Uranus on because it's the end of the show.
Whoa! That's the other end.
That's right. Oh, hello.
Curtis.
Oh, there's
Curtis
my
Boyle
anus.
did it.
I didn't realize my anus was blue like a baboon. I better get that checked.
Episode now.
Oh my!
I need some Tux medicated pads or something there. So.
And how does Ron have Uranus?
People share their programs.
Too much. Okay, what is Aminbo Stone says? Okay, thanks. I never seem to get a response when I email them. What was that question?
He was asking
if
Cloud9 still offers the Triad 512K board. So I mentioned they're transitioning to the new 2 meg version of their board, and there's like the Boomerang, which also is E2 2 meg.
Yeah. And, Richard Lorbieski on our show has the Boomerang 2 meg board for only $49. There you go. So you guys all caught up there? All right, good. I'm just trying to catch up on the chat. All right, so if you enjoyed today's show, hopefully we'll be back in about 5 hours for some more Coco Talk After Dark. I want to remind everybody who watches that you don't have to be an armchair quarterback and just talk on the sidelines in the chat. Anybody who wants to join us on the panel, you are welcome, and we'd love to have new blood and new people on the panel all the time. And our nighttime shows seem to have a nice mix of different faces that aren't always on the same faces you see on a daytime show. So here's a face right here, Jason.
Yeah,
a face that
they'll let
only
me on here, so anybody can on here, you know.
And if you tuned in expecting Big Buck Bunny, we apologize.
Yes. So,
Hey, if you if
Hey,
you
Ron,
guys, what?
why are you sitting in such a dark room for?
I just like it dark right now.
He likes it dark when he looks at Uranus.
So listen.
the blue light of Uranus glows best in the dark. So
all you guys out there in CoCoTime land, show us your Tandy computer and put pictures of your machine up on there. It's pretty cool to see what your setup looks like. And then go to CoCoPie. This is a CoCoPie plan right here that I was showing Uranus on. It's pretty cool.
It's a good thing it's a low-res graphic screen. That's all I have to say.
Yes, but can you show it in 640 for color mode?
Actually, I think it is in 644 color.
Actually, yes.
2 layers.
Star Trek 13, we circle Uranus in search of polyps.
Looks like it's time for a colonoscopy there.
Search of Klingons. You got to clean up that sector of space. There.
Push the button, Frank.
The probe for polyps continues. All right, so.
And there's also Ron's garage to visit. And I put all kinds of content on there for no particular reason, although it is color computer based. Generally.
Well, there is a reason, because without you, Facebook would have suffer a severe content deficit. So Ron Delvaux keeps the Facebook machine fed with
it wasn't
content.
me that did the 50 million people thing. Did you hear about that?
Where you hacked Facebook?
No.
Facebook got hacked.
Yeah, 50 million users.
Yeah.
And then now there's a guy in China, a white hat hacker, said he's going to delete Mark Zuckerberg's personal account off Facebook tomorrow live.
Oh, awesome.
So that'd be interesting if that works.
Cool. All right, so just to recap what Ron just said. Oh, what's that, Rick?
Where's the Patreon for that?
Bitcoin, probably.
What were you going to say?
All right, Francis, go ahead and hit the button.
Yeah, so I wanted to recap what Ron said. So we have the TRS-80 Color Computer group on Facebook. That's the main group. And then Ron has one of about 13,000 other groups. So he's got Show Us Your Tandy Color Computer. He's got an OS9 group. He's got Ron's Garage on Facebook. So lots of places to go and see color computer content to your heart's desire. Anyone else want to say anything? Anyone want to plug anything before we go? Rob Inman, thanks for being here. Everybody knows who Ron Inman now is.
Or Rob.
Rob Inman. Rob
fell
Inman.
asleep.
All right.
People call me Rob when they have a cold.
I still want Nick Perez in an OS9 game.
All right. Well, you can wish in one hand and see what happens, right? All right. So here's the bonus. Here's the after closing bonus there.
Hi, this is Antonio Jimenez, author of such projects such as the Stevie Throw Devil and the SD Pack, and you are watching CoCoTALk. 3, 2, go. 1.
I'm behind you making faces.
Okay. you have a script? You're rolling, Curtis. You say whatever the hell you want to say.
Well, give me some kind of guideline.
Hi, this is Curtis Boyle.
Hey, this is Eric, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
All right, we're rolling. You say whatever you want to say, David.
I can't even think of anything.
Nation, world, sweetie. Weekly, Tandy Computer. Something like that.
Hi, I'm Tim. Playing Daggerith like that idiot from the book. You're watching CoCoTALk.
Thank you, David. Now get back up there for 1 second.
Oh, jeez.
Come on.
What?
Let's get some DriveWire, TTL, ESP.
No, we don't need any DriveWire or TTL. Hi, it's Curtis Boyle, part of the CoCoTALk crew of people.
Hi, we're on Elbow Timberman. To experience Coco Fest, you must come. Do you need this? I brought the only working MC10. I could not get. Couldn't get a grant. By certain someone you know.
The world's leading weekly CoCoTALk show. Yeah, something like that.
Hi, this is Rick Adams, and I'm the author of Temple of Bronze, Shanghai, and now Bomb Threat, and you're listening to Steve Bjork on CoCoTALK.
8-slot MPI, floppy drive, Coco SDC, Sound Speech Pack, Orchestra 90, RS-232 pack, Modem pack, Super IDE. You start adding all those together if you want them all usable at the same time. Well, guess what? You just went over the 4-slot MPI.
Don't go over the 4-slot MPI. Whatever you do, for the love of God.
You got to remember, folks,
Yes.
still go to Discord. You can hear David Ladd blow you up.
Oh, Christ.
Remember what he was trying to do about the floppy? Trying to make a high-density
Oh.
drive work like a standard drive? Oh, that was hilarious.
Yeah, that's one of the many reasons when I start to rage quit Discord.
It can be done, but it's not easy.
Hey, Rob Inman, since this is your first time being on the big show, what was it like? What was it like being on the show versus watching the show?
It was. I had to wear pants.
Says who?
I didn't have to.
Yeah, I'm doing it all wrong then.
And I realized that I prepared so much for my introduction that I had no idea what to respond with when you actually started talking to me. So next time I will think about what I'm going to do after the beginning.
Okay. You got Rick Adams back there with his CoCoTALK LED panel, looking good. So yeah, everybody here is welcome to join us on After Dark. And as Steve Bjork mentioned, we're on Discord all the time. There is a link to our Discord server in the description of this video. Strongly encourage you to join Discord and join the discussions where we didn't cover a lot of news today. Maybe we'll get to some tonight, but there's a lot of buzz going on in the Facebook group right now. There's some people developing some games. There's people asking questions about Coco hardware and sound options and ways to optimize code. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's been posting a lot of videos about wanting to make a game for the Coco 3. He's showing code samples of scrolling and all kinds of stuff. So there's people who are sharing and asking questions to the Facebook group, and I certainly don't want to do this divide the community thing. But what I would say is that in Discord, at least the conversations are slightly organized. So there is an assembly channel. And I know Bruce Moore has been posting questions there and getting those questions answered. And there are people who are on there all the time where, Facebook is not necessarily a real-time feedback, where you have closer to real-time feedback in Discord. So if you're looking to develop something or you just want to be a fly on the wall and see what other people are talking about, Discord's a great place to hang out with your friends as well as get answers to questions and collaborate and things like that too. And again, not trying to say ban Facebook and don't go to Facebook. I think we all kind of coexist and complement each other. But if you need something a little bit more
Timely.
Responsive, you might a little bit more timely. You might want to try Discord. All the cool kids are doing it. So
And even me.
All right, we're gonna push the button, Frank. But we'll be back hopefully later tonight. Thank you all for being here on the panel. Thank you all for watching. God bless you. Thank you. You're too kind. And good night,
Push the
everybody.
button, Francis.
Roger Taylor was here too. Yeah, we cannot forget Roger Taylor was here. Thank you, Roger Taylor. All right, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
He was Coco Tower in the live
Oh.
chat.